And it is the Saturday Coffee Klatch with Heather Lofthouse and Michael Johannes Calderon, and yours truly, Robert Reich. Michael, it's good to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back. By popular demand, I have to say, you Klatchers out there, the last time Michael was on, you wrote in and you said, we want more Michael.
And here I am.
And so, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're excited.
But how are you both doing? How would you summarize your mood, Michael?
Kind of, it's. I feel like I've been experiencing whiplash for the last 10 years, just generally, but this last month especially. I don't know what's going on exactly in the Middle East, and I hope it gets resolved soon.
Oh, well, that's what we are going to talk about.
We are.
And Heather, how are you?
I'm decent. I'm happy to be here with you all. I have this delicious cup of coffee.
What?
And let's break it down.
I think these Coffee Klatch mugs are really collector's items.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I kind of wanted version 2.0.
You don't like yourself.
Well, it's just, that's not my hair. I don't know who you're having coffee with here.
Well, I did. I could do another one.
Let's do another one. How
New
about
mug's
it?
coming
Okay.
soon.
So what would you like to talk about today? What are the issues that you want us to zero
The
in
issue,
on?
okay, this fake peace happening in the Middle East.
Or is it a real piece?
I think it's a fake peace. Let's talk about the stock market is up and people are feeling down. And Viktor Orban is out. Orban is out.
Great.
Okay, so let's get into it.
Okay. Well, first of all, you said fake peace in the
Well, it might
Middle
have changed
East.
in the last 1 minute. I think Trump's winning.
This is the issue. Trump is going to declare a victory any moment now because the Strait of Hormuz is opened. At least the Iran portion of the Strait of Hormuz is open.
Who, by the way, was in charge of it the whole time, and it was open before we got into all this, and now it's open again.
But if you want to talk about where we were before we got into all of this war, the Strait of Hormuz was open. The regime in Iran was not nearly as hardline and angry as it is today. We had some sort of a truce or some sort of a treaty in terms of Iran not developing a nuclear device that Trump got rid of. We are so much worse off as a nation, as a world, than we were before February 28th when he started this stupid war. But don't get me started.
That's what we're here for. The new name of the Coffee Klatch is Get Him Started.
No, don't get me started. But seriously, what do you think is going to happen now?
Well, so right now it's open, except that Trump says, no, we have 10,000 American troops in the region who are stopping people from going through the strait.
Yeah, there's still a naval blockade, and it's conditional, the ceasefire on the reopening of the strait is conditional on the various ceasefires holding, which, as we know, are famous for holding for a long period of time based on the last couple.
They don't hold. In fact, the whole thing is sort of a fog made up out of paper mache. There's no there. There's no ceasefire. It continues to be a war. Trump is there declaring that we are stopping freight coming out of the Strait of Hormuz. But we don't know, really. There's no really good, solid reporting on whether ships are, how they're navigating, or whether they're navigating. And
it's still less than before, which is significant for the global economy, right?
Exactly. And oil prices are still very high. Mm-hmm. Oil futures are very high. And nothing has changed over the last week, even though it looks like, and the White House is creating the impression, that everything has changed.
Well, I had a question for you on, just in terms of what's already happened. There's going to be some effects baked into the global economy still, right? Because I read somewhere that, the last ships, pre this conflict were arriving at ports that had left the Strait of Hormuz, weeks ago. So how much damage is baked in based on what's happened regardless of the new ceasefire?
Well, huge amount of damage, because you have not only all of these oil contracts that are not being fulfilled, you have really a lot of the infrastructure destroyed in the Gulf. You have a complete lack of trust in terms of whether the strait is going to be stopped again, or whether Iran or Trump is going to block it. Once it is blocked, The market is figuring in whether it is likely to be blocked again. And obviously, that figure is much higher than it was before. So you have all kinds of forces now that are going to keep oil prices up. And that's not just oil prices, but fertilizer that moves through the Gulf, and helium and all sorts of materials that we need, the global economy needs. And you've got country, remember, this is a global market.
Right.
You've got a lot of countries around the world that are in desperate straits right now in terms of energy.
Desperate straits.
Desperate straits. Desperate straits of
strait.
Hormuz.
So I have a friend who works at Give Directly who was telling me the impact on sub-Saharan Africa, which we don't talk about anymore, and USAID is defunded, and somehow our sense of, the global poor has shifted. And so when you think about these landlocked countries, like Malawi, for example, their diesel has gone up 37%, and their petrol, their gas has gone up 36%, and they're landlocked, and everything comes in on trucks. This is devastating. And there was a UN report that said this could push 32 million people into poverty who weren't technically in poverty before this war. I mean, is hugely significant. And we're going to see the ramifications for a long time, even when Trump is screaming on Truth Social that everything's great and being nasty to people.
I think that's a very important point, Heather. We are going to see the consequences, and the consequences really have not hit in a lot of these, particularly these poor countries. And the countries that are able to are borrowing from global markets in order to try to compensate their people, to try to keep their people from starving. Well, that is also a potential instability in the global economy. We can't know. The borrowing cannot continue forever. I mean, this is what I find so aggravating. Trump starts a war without thinking about any endgame, without thinking about what his real purposes are. We are worse off than we were, the United States, and the rest of the world is in a state of trauma, and it's getting worse.
And livid with us, as they should be. And also, can we talk about people who have died and been displaced? I mean, this is happening all over Iran and Lebanon.
Well, not to mention all the people that might starve if this goes on, right? Because of the implications of fertilizer, and planting season is here in coming up in many places around the world. So the implications are, we don't know, right, at this point, because if it continues, it could be far worse than we can imagine.
When is he going to shout victory again on
Well, he did
social
yesterday
media?
Or 2 days ago or 3 days ago.
He continues to shout victory. I mean,
every day.
This is a man who started shouting victory in mid-March. He said, we don't need the Strait of Hormuz open. We have enough oil.
Well, but we should open it.
But then he says, you bastards, open it. He said, fucking bastards. So I don't want to repeat.
No, wouldn't.
There is just... He is so completely erratic and so obviously losing his marbles. He's losing his mind at the same time that he's causing crazy, the entire world to be rattled by what he is doing.
But Bob, how can the stock market be up while everyone is suffering?
Yeah, Wall Street seemed really happy this week.
I'll tell you exactly why. Because with the advent of, very soon, artificial intelligence, AI is already being installed in many of these companies. They have big contracts for AI. They think that they can get down their payroll costs, and they're already laying off huge numbers of people.
Yep.
And remember, payrolls are 2/3 of the costs of most corporations. So if they can get their payrolls down to 50% as opposed to 66%, what's the rest? The rest is profit. And so you have profits going up. And as profits go up, the stock market goes up. But average working people are losing their jobs.
And paying more.
I don't know. Howard Lutnick was on TV the other day saying we're going to have 6-point-something% GDP growth. So it sounds like it's all rosy to me. I don't know.
These people don't know what they're doing, or they are knaves. They are selling the country or trying to lie to the country, either fools or knaves. Howard Lutnick is certainly in both categories. So average working people, are facing an affordability crisis. they're still paying, everybody's paying $1 or more than they were for gas before. They will be shortly paying more for food because as fertilizer costs go up, the world food system is
And we
less
were already
productive.
paying a little more for food. And then there was tariffs. Remember tariffs?
And the tariffs are still there. And
Import taxes.
the import taxes are still there. Those import taxes also act as a huge drain on average working people. And we just went through tax season. The average person got back a couple of $100 in refunds. I mean, that's not nothing, but it is much less than Trump told people that they would be getting.
While the S&P hits a record high. I mean, he must be giddy. I hate it.
The S&P hits a record high, and CEOs have never made as much money because part of their pay is in shares of stock and in the price of stock. And as the price of stock goes up, they're doing wonderfully well.
And there was a new report from ITEP that, thanks to the Trump tax cuts, 287 major corporations avoided $139 billion on their 2025 profits and taxes.
Well, so again, taxes on the rich and on big corporations have plummeted. The profits of big corporations are soaring. Jobs and wages are going nowhere or going down. This is what we are seeing all over the U.S. economy. This is the story of the U.S. economy under Trump.
So I feel like every other post he does, so he's either talking about the war or he's talking about Jesus and his close connection
because
with
he's Jesus in that AI photo.
Right, which has been taken down.
Or sorry, no, he was a Red Cross doing a Red Cross doctor. I think is how he said it.
What did he say? He said that the photo was misinterpreted. The original one he put up with him being Jesus. He said, no, I was not Jesus. I was being a doctor. I was being a physician.
Red Cross, I had read.
I had doctored the photo.
Right.
Your doctors have robes and their fingers glow, right? I assume.
mean, it was one of the few instances where I have seen him almost speechless and awkward.
Yeah.
And
had to take it
caught
down.
red-handed. But then he puts up another. Did you see the one?
Oh yeah, where it was a very gentle embrace between him and Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Famously, something you should be posting all the time as president of the United States.
I mean, look at Hegseth and look at Trump, and look what they've been saying about Christianity and war.
Right.
Yeah.
So Hegseth really kind of set the first domino going, right?
Yeah. Hegseth said, and this was the Sunday before Palm Sunday.
Right.
He said that war is. Do you have the quote?
He asked God for overwhelming violence of action against those who deserve no mercy at a Pentagon prayer service.
Oof.
And in the name of Jesus Christ. I mean, whenever
At a Pentagon prayer service, can we talk about that
there's
part?
There's a kind of an inconsistency. The notion of a Pentagon prayer service itself is a little bit of an oxymoron.
I don't know if you've seen the room that happens in. There's like stained glass that has American flags and eagles on it. It's very...
Is it stained in blood or is it stained glass?
It's hard to say, but it is just sort of, it's a bizarre location, to say the least.
So the Pope, Leo, in response to Hegseth, gives a Sunday oration around the theme that you shouldn't pay any attention to somebody who is a warrior, who's making war and who's talking about peace.
Well, and specifically, he was invoking, I think, as is his right as Pope, in my opinion, as a Catholic, that God does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war, but rejects them, saying, even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood.
Yeah, and so that in turn gets Trump to say, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He shouldn't be meddling in foreign policy.
Well, it's the whole Republican Party. I mean, it's the president, the vice president, the Speaker of the House. They all decide to have theological opinions and arguments with the Pope this week.
And Vance, who is the sort of styles himself as the Catholic in the cabinet.
Catholic convert. He's got a book on his conversion coming up, I believe.
Well, I can't wait not to read it.
Ah.
I mean, he says the Pope should not be interpreting the gospel. He should not be.
They
giving
should
his
stick to his own
interpretation.
lane, basically. The Vatican
Stick to
should
his
stick
own lane, which is theology.
to matters of morality,
Matters
in
of
terms of the
morality.
church.
What is going on? How can you say, if you're a Catholic, the Pope cannot talk about what theology actually means, what morality means?
There might still be a bit of a learning curve post-conversion,
You
but
mean for the Pope.
for
J.D.
the
Vance.
vice president,
Yeah.
for the vice president.
I mean, but it's just, and here's a vice president to somebody who speaks without thinking. I mean, talk about carelessness. I mean, the vice president says to the Pope, "You're being careless."
Did you say he thinks without thinking?
He speaks
Oh,
and he
speaks.
thinks.
No, I heard
he
that.
doesn't
He
think
posts.
without thinking.
Posts without
he
thinking.
talks without thinking. And we're talking about Trump.
Yeah.
And the vice president, to somebody who is famous now for talking without thinking, says to the Pope, "You have got to be careful about your words about theology."
Yeah, I think there's a distinct lack of charisma behind all of the threats that he's laying out. He's trying to do the Trump thing, but doesn't do it very well. And on top of that, all of the Republicans are trying to use this concept of the just war doctrine, which we don't have to get into this theological
No, let's
aspect.
get into what is the just war doctrine?
Well, I mean, I will not claim to be the Pope and know exactly what it is, but based on what the U.S. Catholic Bishops' Doctrine Committee said, to be a just war, it must be a defense against another who actively wages war. And that was what they said in
who
response.
actively wages
Yes.
war?
Yes.
The Iranians, were they actively waging war?
No.
Yeah. So I think the fact that you've got J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson up on their pedestals or up at their podium saying, well, this is, they don't even reference it beyond the two words, just war doctrine, as if that's enough to justify what they're doing. But I don't know. I think if you have the U.S. Catholic Bishops' Doctrine Committee coming out and trying to correct you on your theological
I'm so glad,
arguments.
Michael, that you are reading the U.S. Catholic
Me too, and
Bishops.
that
Somebody
you have
has
things
to.
written on this piece of paper.
I don't know even, anything
Well,
about this.
I also liked that they said, because they were trying to tell Mike Johnson and J.D. Vance, hey, when you're saying, oh, well, the Pope has opinions on theology, they said, he's not merely offering opinions. This is Pope Leo. Pope Leo is not merely offering opinions on theology. He is preaching the gospel, which is his formal roles.
And I have got to say, J.D. Vance has not distinguished himself over the last several weeks or months or
Ever?
ever. I mean, Vance, remember, he was a U.S. senator who was put there in Ohio because Peter Thiel made a $10 million donation to Vance's PAC, or to Thiel's PAC that was intended to help Vance. And he was there, Vance was there for 2 years, and then Peter Thiel and others lobbied Trump to take this Ohio senator for vice president.
And do you remember when Trump was kind of lukewarm on him for a while at the beginning?
I think he's still lukewarm.
Well, he's still.
I mean, he sent him to try and solve the Iran
I
conflict,
know.
and that did not go well. So he came back home unsuccessfully, and now it's been resolved through Truth Social. So Vance is totally cut out.
I think that Trump has anointed either Rubio or Vance, right? He's created, instead of being the next president, he's created a kind of internal competition. And sending Vance to try to work this thing out is a suicidal mission politically.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that Trump is now favoring Rubio.
Yep.
And Trump was at a wrestling match with Rubio while Vance was
Well,
trying to
that explains-
negotiate.
that
Also.
shows everything,
they are
right?
very
So-
close bros.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. But one thing that is so interesting is the Pew study that came out yesterday or whenever it was.
Oh, yeah.
That says basically people no longer, they've changed. The American people do not think Donald Trump is very religious. But they used to think he was more religious. Now, in particular, the Hispanic Catholics and others are saying not as religious as I thought he was.
Well, good. I mean,
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of reasons that Hispanic Catholics, speaking as one, might find this administration less appealing than before.
Michael, you're not only Hispanic Catholic, but you are also our representative to the generation.
I knew this was coming.
The generation, whatever it is.
He
Z,
lumps me in.
Z? Are you? What are you generating?
Z.
It's right on the cusp of
Okay.
Yeah,
So
a
you
zillennial,
are,
let's say.
You are in your mid-late 20s. And I don't, I mean, I don't even know how to speak to you.
Sure.
Frankly.
Well, you're doing it right now.
You're
I?
pretty great at it.
Am I?
Considering.
I mean, considering I don't speak the language.
You're doing good
I mean,
communication.
what, from the standpoint of somebody in their late 20s, this generation, whatever it is, what does the world look like to you?
I mean, I think especially with what we've seen in Iran, I'm worried about what I can plan for in the future. I think that it feels like we're being locked into this carbon fossil fuel economy for the rest of my, middle life, while the rest of the world electrifies and all this green tech is happening, and we're just going to be stuck in this, what feels like a dying empire. That's a phrase I hear a lot of my peers use. And that's on social media, it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok, especially when you see the U.S. becoming more publicly violent across the globe to enforce our will. I watched this lecture by somebody a couple days ago talking about how, it feels like the U.S. is tightening its grip and the world and all of its allies are slipping through its fingers based on what they're doing in Iran or with Greenland and Europe or what they're doing with the Panama Canal and South America. It's just, I don't know, it does not make me feel very positive about where this country is going.
Well, speaking as a boomer and the representative of the boomers, I totally agree
Well, there
with
you go.
But
consensus.
Thank you.
What
look at
Gen
we are
X?
not.
Oh, sorry,
What, am
Gen
I
X.
nothing
We can
over
shake
here?
hands too.
What is your generation? I keep
It
forgetting.
is the best generation. It's Gen X.
Gen X.
I hate to
Yeah.
tell you, Heather, but I think Gen X is the most MAGA.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
saw this
right.
the
I
other
did see
day.
that the other
Well,
day.
they used to be, but it's not now MAGA. I think you
Maybe
all
there's a shift.
are moving.
I think we're
to the
moving
left.
because everyone's miserable and upset and depressed and not impressed.
Consumer. By the way, have you looked at consumer sentiment?
Oh,
it is in the
Yeah.
74 years that they have been measuring consumer sentiment. We are now at the lowest point in 74 years in terms of how average consumers are viewing their future and the economy. That is extraordinary.
And they're not wrong.
I mean, if you look at the big picture, Michael, your pessimism or your concern about the future, your millennial Generation X kind of existential crisis, my boomer anger. You look at all of this and you can see in the midterms the Democrats are going to have a huge blue wave, aren't they?
Well, so I feel like we have coffee every week, and some weeks you're particularly pessimistic or less hopeful.
No, I'm always hopeful. I'm always upbeat. Upbeat, yes.
You sometimes angry.
Upbeat Bob. Well, I can get angry. That's true.
But I'm feeling, so I want to talk about Viktor Orban getting ousted. I felt a sense of relief around that, a sense of pride for how hard, 79.4% turnout
Yeah.
Isn't that
in
amazing?
that country.
Yeah.
And it
And
was
a supermajority in the legislature, I
right.
believe.
And it was so rigged. Talk about a rigged system. And
It was
talk
rigged
about,
for Orban.
Yeah, it
That's
was-
what I assumed.
yeah, and against Peter Magyar.
Yeah. So how did he win? And what's the lesson for us in that win?
Well, as I understand it, he talked a lot about corruption, specifically the corruption of the Orban administration and his cronies, and how all of the gains of the economy were going to a select few. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Sounds like maybe
know.
something similar is happening.
I don't know. That might be a
Corruption
stretch.
and the gains going to a particular
And
few at the top.
affordability.
And affordability. And he also, he tied the declining economic conditions for everybody else to that enriching of the select few in the Orban inner circle. And he also promised accountability and consequences. That was a huge part of his campaign. And even in, I think it was the victory rally, there was this video of the crowd just shouting, jail, 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 as part of, we have a lot of people that we would like to send through the justice system who probably were stealing from the state and from the people for the last 16 years.
Let's be clear. Orban staked his entire political career and his power on anti-Muslim, anti-immigrant being the force that was going to stop the invasion.
The defender of Western civilization
Right.
is the kind of language they use.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
A
some
white Christian thug.
white Christian nationalism, we would
Thug.
call it.
And denigrating and blaming, various minorities
The
for
other.
the poor economic conditions that were preceded his administration and also throughout. So,
And Peter Magyar comes in talking about corruption of the administration, the fact that people at the top are the only ones who are doing well, Orban's cronies, and that most people can't afford any longer a good life. Those are three principles that would be, would be central to the
But let's be clear,
Democratic message here in the United
but
States.
he's very conservative. Very conservative,
We're talking
right?
Peter Magda.
Yeah, very conservative. And he did some upward, he would do 4 to 8 visits a day, visiting people. He went to almost all of the parishes in Hungary. He took selfies with everyone. And he had AI bots against him and advertising everywhere and spies. And he was being followed. And I mean, it was a very tough battle that he just won.
Well, but he won it overwhelmingly.
Overwhelmingly.
Yes.
So is
I find that hopeful.
well, I do too. Is Zoran Mamdani the Peter Magyar of
No, because
America?
Zoran's a progressive.
I think Zoran's also just a lot more chipper. He's got a more positive vibe than the Hungarian opposition did. But I think it's different. It's different contexts, right? I think you need both, because you need people in the Democratic Party, in my opinion, who are going to promise accountability for the various crimes that have happened, are ongoing, and will happen in the next however long. And you also need people who can provide the optimistic, positive view of what government can do beyond just holding people who commit crimes accountable, right?
But can you have both in the same person? I mean, the optimistic view of what we can do. Mamdani, his first 100 days, I don't remember a mayor of New York who has had this much success or this much positive spin media.
Well, unless, of course, you own a pied-à-terre.
Right.
Well, that's
Right.
Do our viewers know what a
Very
pied-à-terre is?
true.
I had to look this up. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
have
it's a
one
little
personally.
piece of earth.
I
It's
know
a
that
French
your
term.
generation doesn't
It's
do
a French
pied-à-terre.
We don't
term.
have first
It's
tears.
a second house. Yeah. It's
don't
a
have the
second
first
to the
one.
apartment you don't really live in. And so he's like, you millionaires and billionaires with your lovely penthouses. And you see that that video he did where it was looking up at the whose penthouse was it? I'm forgetting now.
But I
Somebody's.
think that the strategy Democrats have got to use, and they're already winning on the strategy, is making life better and more affordable for average people, and fighting corruption, and making sure that there is some accountability in Washington and in government. And if you do all of that, I think that's the winning formula. The Democrats are coming back. If they do that, they're going to take over Congress. But should we be worried about?
Yes.
I mean, constant
Wait a
worry.
minute.
Constant
should we
worry.
be worried about Trump not allowing free and fair elections, given this blue wave
Yes.
that is coming in our direction?
Like Heather, I think I feel positive based on what I saw in Hungary. I mean, that is a system that was rigged steadily over 16 years. I mean, one might argue Trump has been chipping away at things for 10. But if they can do it, we can do it. I mean, we're the to be a little patriotic, we're the United States of America, for crying out loud.
Yes, but we also have a vicious, angry right wing that is entrenched. I mean, Republicans, Trump is still favorable. I mean, they're still regarding him 80% favorability among Republicans.
Yeah, but overall it's going down. All his
Yeah,
But
he's a lot
going
less
down.
popular.
Well,
independence.
it's independent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really where he's losing it.
But so he looks bad with Orban going out. I mean, they were buddies. They were kind of, authoritarian. I don't know what you call them.
Well, Hungary was one of the nerve centers of the global far right. I mean, you had people like CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, was literally hosted in Hungary at one
Yeah.
point, and paid by Orban at one point too.
Well, also you had not only Trump and Vance supporting Orban and trying to be there for him. Vance went and tried to campaign for him, but you also had Vladimir Putin there for Orban. You had Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu, therefore Orban. So it's every authoritarian in the world was there rooting him on.
You should go look at his endorsement list on Wikipedia. It's a real rogue
His
gallery.
endorsement
of people
list on Wikipedia. But
Orban.
what about the Italian prime minister?
Giorgia
Yeah.
Meloni.
I think that's a big, big and important shift. She looks at the polls in Italy. They are moving dramatically against Trump. And she figures, for her own political survival, she's got to establish some distance with Trump, and she criticizes Trump, and then he obviously criticizes her. So that romance is finished.
But that's good. I like that romance is done. I like that this global authoritarian horribleness that we've been seeing a flare of is, I don't know, weakening.
Is it in retreat? I mean, I think this is the bottom line question. Are we seeing the rebirth of a, democracy movement around the world? Are we going to see it? Is that kind of the silver lining on this terrible Trump cloud?
I think so.
I think so.
I also think that it shows the limits of far-right cooperation in that they are kind of inherently at odds all the time because they're all nationalists to some degree. I mean, I think part of the reason why you have Giorgia Meloni going against Trump is because it's no longer to her benefit to say, I'm pro this particular U.S. administration and we should build up our own European self-defense and blah, 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 which is what a lot of the far-rightists in Europe are saying. Which, big picture, if you're one of the few remaining New Deal Atlantic cooperation internationalist type people, it's a lot of buzzwords, but, people who like friendship between Europe and the U.S., that's not great, actually. So I worry, as one of the few people maybe, about that continuing relationship in the future.
I think there's justifiable worry. I mean, Trump has given every indication he wants to get out of NATO. He can't legally get out of NATO, but what he can do is move American troops to places where he feels there is more loyalty to him and to the United States. I think Europe doesn't know what to do.
Yeah,
I know. It's in a complete quagmire. And so, to some extent, are Canada and Mexico. Although I think they're doing a better job than Europe in terms of navigating
handling
Trump.
him. Yeah, I agree. Aren't we also buoyed by what's happening here in the States? In these special elections and Dems outperforming, overperforming.
The average overperforming, that is relative to what people would expect given Trump's performance in 2024, is 16%. Movement, 16% toward the Democrats, toward the left. Even when Democrats lose, there's still the popular vote is still.
Yeah. Which, if you're a congressional Republican, is setting off every alarm bell in the back of your mind.
For sure.
That you won't publicly talk about because you're still, subservient to all hail the Emperor Donald Trump. But, there's a lot more retirements.
But the Emperor has no clothes. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true.
It's true. You've said it.
I have said it.
It's still no clothes.
But it's time, I think, for some courageous Republicans who don't even have to be that courageous. They just look at the poll results to say, no, we are not going to support Trump.
Besides Marjorie Taylor Greene? You want someone else?
Yes, and Giorgia Meloni. I mean, there are and must be some courageous Republicans in Congress. Why not? Why aren't there? We need them. America needs them.
If you're out there.
You used a term the other day that I thought was so funny because we were talking about these cronies, these people, these, saluters, and you used the phrase baby monster. You said, well, that's a baby monster. I mean, Trump is, monsters. But Trump is the big monster. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I found it so funny.
This is a cartoon version.
Right.
But when you have big monsters prowling the world, like Trump and Putin, and I'm going to include Netanyahu, people who are excusing a lot of things that should not be excused or legitimizing a bigotry, they're going to naturally inspire imitators at a tiny, small level. And this is where you get not only people who are Trumpers, and you have people in the Trump administration like Stephen Miller, but you've got baby monsters all over. I was yesterday driving back from getting coffee, and somebody ran a red light, almost ran right into me. And I thought to myself, there is a kind of selfish belligerence even in driving that I don't remember seeing before. I think people are taking cues from Trump at the margin. I'm not describing everybody, but at the margin, there is a movement toward, I'm afraid, imitating some of the big
There's a
monsters.
permission structure.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, if
and
they
it's normalized
Yeah.
and it's emboldened and it feels in the moment, it feels like, ooh, I have some power when you don't have power, right?
Have you two seen that?
A lot of baby monsters.
The baby monsters. I'm talking about the drivers or the people who are breaking into lines, or who are kind of using epithets that people were not using.
I see it
before.
less in person and more online and more in all the people in Washington and more, I would say, in those ways.
I think that it also ticked up after COVID. There were a lot of people who sort of had a couple wires unscrewed after that, and I think never really came back to their previous selves. And you see that, I hear that a lot from my peers who are working in customer service. Like there's a continued, I don't know, selfishness, I guess, that seems to be more persistent.
That's exactly it. Is assertiveness and it's selfishness, and it's represented by Trump, and was represented by.
And it's applauded by Trump. I mean, he's
it's applauded by
promoting
Trump.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a cult of
Which is, again, why I think
selfish
what
personality.
happened in Hungary and the promise of accountability for the people at the top would probably change the behavior downstream, too.
I would hope so, and I think that's a good message to end on. It's a positive message to
Let's
end
do
on.
a positive one. Can we
Michael
clink?
Michael Johannes Calderon, thank you for joining
Thanks for
us.
coming on, Michael
Thank
and
you.
Bob.
Heather,
It's good to
thank
see
you.
you.
It's great to see you. And thank you, all of you out there. This is a time of monsters. But there is some reason to believe that we are winning over the monsters. It's not just Viktor Orban. It's also the special elections in the United States. It's also a sense that we have, particularly I have since the last No King's Day, of a kind of a confidence among progressives, among Democrats. Even if Clarence Thomas goes off on progressives, something we didn't talk about. But when a Supreme Court justice really feels that he has permission to say negative things about part of the electorate in terms of how we feel and how we understand our futures and our values, well, I think that's another sign that we are winning. We are getting to them. We are making them realize that their power fundamentally is based upon us. That's what democracy is all about. Clarence Thomas, Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, we're going to win. We already are. Thank you all. Have a good week, and we'll see you next Saturday.
Yes.